We as Jews, we are a communal people. We have people davening, praying with a minyan, a quorum of 10 men every day. We go to synagogue. We exist as a community. That's part of our inherent in our survival as Jewish people. It is an important thing. And even people who aren't Jewish, people who are Christian, like it's still a communal practice. You have a set of beliefs that we can all agree on. Jews don't agree on anything, but basically, like you have some fundamental ideas that we can all sort of get on board with, even if we do it differently. Spirituality is a completely inside job. It is a relationship that we cultivate from the inside, and it's a connection that we forge with ourselves, with the sacred, and with a community of like-minded people that we choose who are on the same path as us. That's what spirituality is. It is completely internal. Religion can be a path to spirituality, but you can also stay in the neighborhood of religion without ever touching spirituality. You can coast your whole life if you want. I know people with 35 years of sobriety who do not work the 12 steps. They're miserable, but they're not drinking. They're very difficult to be around. They've been married 4 times. Their kids don't talk to them, but they're sober.
This is Listening to Understand, where sensitive Jewish truth seekers gather in a safe place for candid conversations on challenging topics. When we listen to truly understand, and not in order to respond, we can replace judgment with curiosity and open our hearts to every Jew, regardless of their personal choices. As Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. I'm Matana. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back. This is my new lovely friend. I always say that social media, and like everything in the world, there's the good and the ugly and the not so good, and choose to see what's good. Social media can be really rough, but if not for social media, I wouldn't meet my new friend, Rea Bochner. Such a joy.
Right? Instant click when we talked. It was like,
yeah. And if not for social, if we were meant to meet, we would probably meet. You live in Israel. I'm from Israel. I come a lot to Israel. But the way social media attracts what you are to you, and you were literally what my vision of a Jewish woman is, and you live it. You're the founder of Awake Jewish Women. Is there something more like saying what you live and breathe? And I want to talk a little bit about why you decided to make that platform, even though we're going to be talking about addiction and breaking the stigma on addiction in the Jewish world. And you are so inspiring. You're so inspiring. There's so many things that I could go down the rabbit hole with you, but this will be the first one, right?
Thank God for the algorithm, right? Like it's the best shot time.
Yeah, exactly. Kathy Heller. Do you know Kathy Heller? You should interview her. Oh my God, you should. She's huge. She's a huge spiritual guru. She's very into manifesting synchronicity. She lives in LA, but she was in the old city for 3 years learning Judaism. And she said something so phenomenal yesterday, that what is alignment and you attract what you are. She said what ChatGPT is. If both of us or 3 people take ChatGPT and put in the same question, ChatGPT will answer us based on who we are. Yeah. And we will get different answers. You're going to get an answer that will align to you. I'm going to get an answer that aligns to me. And she might get an answer that aligns to her. And I think that's so interesting because that's what energy is. We attract what we are.
I've heard it said that there are 3 truths, right? Your truth, my truth, and the actual truth. But ultimately, we're all living in our own versions of it. And the world that we see and the things that we experience are us. So right. You and I are both living on planet Earth right now on what day, right. I don't even know what day it is, but today, Wednesday. And we're living in 2 entirely different worlds. But the world that we live in is our world. It's
a joint world. And I sometimes tell my children, the world we're living in is all fiction. It's not real. Like we think it's real. And then we're like, oh, wait, maybe it's all an illusion and it's a dream. And we'll wake up from the dream one day and we're like, oh, that felt so real. So anyway, yeah. So you wrote a book. I don't have it in front of me. Do you have it in front of you? Because mine is downstairs. The Cape House. The Cape House, a beautiful memoir, I took it shop this morning when I first got it and I'm like reading it and my kids are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm reading a book. And they're like, but you're never so into a book. I'm like, I know you can't put it down. It's so raw, so beautiful. Well, I highly recommend it. I'm halfway through. It's beautiful. It's about your life with
It
your
is.
mom, your
Um,
parents, how you were raised. Really beautiful. So let's go back a little bit. We're not going to go into the history of who you are. You'll touch upon it because that could be 3 episodes in itself. But give us a little bit of a background why you started Awake Jewish Women. How was it born?
So I don't think I actually came up with the idea. I think the idea like just happened and I was the vessel. It was floating. But the short version is that my everyday job, as you mentioned, I'm a writer and a ghostwriter. So I have a client who does a lot of social media stuff, pro-Israel stuff, who I'm writing a book for. And they were being honored at the Knesset back in January. So I went to this event and I was super excited. Never been to the Knesset before. Had to buy a new outfit because one must. And so I went to this event and I realized very quickly that people were leaving in the middle. And I was like, what's going on? Why are people leaving? Because you have 50 people here who are being honored. And I realized the problem was that they had taken, out of these 50 people, they took the 5 most famous, put them on stage and said, tell us about what you do. And we were all like, we know what you do. This is why we're here. And I decided in my head that I was going to fix this event because I think I'm Hashem sometimes, and Hashem's like, you're funny. And I was like, okay, if I could be in charge of this event, what I would do is I would take 2 of the famous people off the stage, put 2 not so famous people on the stage because I want to hear something new. I want to hear something
brilliant.
we
So
haven't
brilliant.
heard or have heard less of. And instead of asking them, what do you do? I'm going to ask them, what the hell happened to you to make you do this? Why do you do this? And
the why.
The why is everything. I'm not interested in what. I know what you do. Why? What happened?
Wow.
So I came home and it was still like sitting in my brain. A few days later, I laid down to take a nap. Now, if you ask my children which of them is my favorite, they will say naps. So
I love you.
I love naps maybe not more than my kids, but like my kids and like naps. Like
but we won't love our kids if we don't take our naps.
Mediocre, exactly. So I went to lay down to take a nap, and all of a sudden this idea came into my head, and it was like, you need to talk to Jewish women about their why. And I got out of bed and I sat down in this seat, and I have not stopped for 6 months.
This is only 6 months?
6 months. It's only been 6 months.
Oh my God, it exploded.
So the reason that I was like, why do I need to talk to Jewish women? So there's 2 reasons, right? Number one, while unfortunately there is a need to go out and fight anti-Semitism and raise awareness about Israel and all those things, those people are only fighting half the battle. Because at the end of the day, there's a whole other battle going on inside of us where we need to remember who we are. And Jewish women are the foundation of that whole thing. We are the ones who come in with the tambourines and bring the party. If a Jewish woman is tapped in, her entire family is tapped in. And if her family,
so true,
then everybody's tapped in. It's just how it rolls. But that's what we're literally born to do. So I felt like I wanted to ask Jewish women about their experience of tapping into their Judaism, or just tapping into themselves of like, how did you wake up? What happened to you? Because I felt like women telling their stories in general is important. But also, we need to remember who we are. And we need to remember who we are together, not just Orthodox women over here and conservative women over here. Like, we need a community where we are all Jewish women reminding each other that not only are we Jewish queens, but we're all magical badasses. And I wanted to create one spot where that happened. And Awake Jewish Women just was it. I didn't even have to think about the name. I was like, oh,
you knew.
I knew.
Really?
It was not me. I'm telling you, it came in and I was like, oh, okay. And I just went and started doing it. Like, I didn't plan anything. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And just started. And it was complete. I'm telling you, it was divinely inspired. It was not me sitting down and thinking, oh, what's a good Instagram project? I'm telling you, I had the idea, started it 5 minutes later, 6 months later, we're at almost 6,000 followers. We've done me, myself, and I,
Amazing.
I think we're almost at 150 interviews at this point. Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's remarkable about your interviews? That you're very talented, first of all. You know how to take a very long story and get to the point like, and a why can take more than 3 minutes to say, but you know how to put it into like zoom in and the awake part, because the awake part can take years for someone to go through, and you capture it in what, 30 seconds or a minute or something like that. Boom.
Like often we live in our little echo chamber of this is how it is. These are the kind of people that I know. Or this is what Judaism looks like, right? When actually there are a million different ways that we are living as women, as Jewish women, or different experiences. I have women who are on there with wigs. I have women on there with tattoos all over the place. I can have one woman talking about how the first time she ever lit Shabbat candles was with her toddler daughter. And it was so exciting for her. And then I have another woman who's been keeping Shabbat her whole life, but had an aha moment when her son's grandfather said to him, "Are you learning Gemara? Are you learning the Talmud?" And the son said, "Not yet." And the grandfather was like, "What do you mean you're not learning?" And she said, it was so inspiring to me because it wasn't that he's saying I'm not interested. It's that I am, but maybe there's something I have to go through first in order for me to get there. It doesn't always have to be these huge aha moments. There are so many times I meet women and they're like, "I've had a million aha moments." And I'm like, "Great. Tell me about one of them." Because it's not always about the sea splitting, right? It's not always like those major miracle moments. I think it was Marianne Williamson, the writer slash former presidential candidate, who said that a miracle is a shift in perception. It can literally just be a whole other angle.
I love that.
Right?
A miracle is shift in perception.
So
beautiful.
Sometimes just being able to see something from a different perspective can change your whole world. Because you step out of the world that you see and hear and realize there's something else going on. That's something I talk about a lot in my workshops, is the idea of considering that, like, you may believe something and it may even be true, but what else could be true? What else could be true about this? Like, there are people who say, this is how you do Judaism. Okay, what else could be true about that?
Are people honest? But are people honest about it? Do they really go and ask that question internal? Like, it's scary.
Here's the thing, right? There's something really safe about being certain. There's something really safe about black and white thinking, right? Because I know how things are now. I understand how things work. To consider that there's more than one reality, to consider that there's more than one perspective is very scary, because it reminds us that how much we actually don't have control over basically anything. And for me, the exercise of my spirituality, of developing a relationship with a God of my understanding. And I know the word God, bad taste in some people's mouths. I use the word literally because I don't have another one. That's the only
Why
word.
Is that? I've never heard that it's a bad
word. God, they just have bad associations with it.
Really?
They just, there's the ideas that people like talk
like the big scary man up.
Scary man up there, exactly.
Okay, versus a spiritual, like the energy, the force.
So I think, particularly in Judaism, we have very clear ideas about what God does and what God is supposed to be, right? What Hashem is. We even have 13 attributes of faith, things we are required to believe in order to doing our job as Jews. No one's discrediting these things. Those are real things. And for me personally, as I've been developing my own personal relationship with the God of my understanding, with the higher power, the less I know what God is. And the less I need to know what God is, because I just experience it. And that's enough for me. I don't really need to have the answers. I just need to have the closeness and connection and the experience. And that's enough. But I think that takes practice of being comfortable with not knowing for sure.
Yeah. And surrender, which can lead us into recovery, because I don't know much about recovery. I interviewed a lot of people on their personal journey in recovery. I don't even know the 12 steps. There's like a Bible of the 12 steps, and you're going to tell us what they are. And what I see a common thread between, it doesn't matter if it's somebody that never believed in a God, a Christian or Jew, maybe even Buddha. I've never met a Buddha that was in the 12 steps, but
I knew someone who was I don't remember if he was a Buddhist, but he was a devotee of Ashtanga yoga. Like, that was practice. And Ashtanga yoga is very much, it's not a religion per se, but it's very much a spiritual path.
So a common theme is that they surrender to the higher power, and they And the word is surrendering, and there's the higher power. And a lot of them use the word God, which I like. So your words that you're using are very much somebody that's so comfortable with recovery. And I find, and I'm going to say something very controversial now, I find, and I speak to a lot of people, and I find that people that went through recovery are probably the most spiritual people I have ever met. Now, people confuse spirituality with religion. And it's there's nothing that could be so not comparable.
So
If you use religion the right way, you might get to spirituality. But so many times we're stuck in the religion and we don't get to the beginning of spirituality, of connecting to God, to godliness. And it's so sad. Tell me your thoughts.
So before we continue, I want to delineate actually, like verbatim, like really, because I'm a writer, right? So I'm very like into words, right? So there is a fundamental difference between religion and spirituality. And let's discuss that. There's also a quote I want to share. It's attributed to a few different people, including David Bowie. So I go with David Bowie because obviously, why not? David Bowie's the coolest. So basically, it's that religion is for people who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for people who have already been there. Religion is a communally shared set of beliefs and practices, right? It's something we do as a people that defines us as a people. It's very external. There's nothing wrong with it. We need it. We as Jews, we are a communal people. We have people davening praying with a minyan, a quorum of 10 men every day. We go to synagogue. We exist as a community. That's part of our inherent in our survival as Jewish people. It is an important thing. And even people who aren't Jewish, people who are Christian, it's still a communal practice. You have a set of beliefs that we can all agree on. Jews don't agree on anything, but basically, like, you have some fundamental ideas that we can all get on board with, even if we do it different. Okay?
Right.
Spirituality is a completely inside job. It is a relationship that we cultivate from the inside, and it's a connection that we forge with ourselves, with the sacred, and with a community of like-minded people.
That we choose.
Right? That we choose, who are on the same path as us. That's what spirituality is. It is completely internal. Religion can be a path to spirituality.
Exactly.
It can.
And a good one. And a good one.
A very healthy, wonderful one. But you can also stay in the neighborhood of religion without ever touching spirituality.
Literally. And I think our generation is craving spirituality. And so many people, kids, adults, are seeing that they're missing that connection that they thought that religion will bring, and they don't feel that godliness in they don't feel a relationship with God through the religion, and then they leave religion because they think that the message was wrong. Yes, but if
turn on my AC, hold on a second. Just tell me if the sound. Hold on, it's going to turn on. I just don't want the sound to interfere. Just tell me.
It's fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about the sound. Right. And I think our generation is craving spirituality. They're craving something so much deeper and more. And unfortunately, they can reject because it wasn't taught the right way.
Listen, most people are not taught how to have spirituality. And even in our culture, right? Like, even spirituality is commercialized. I call it Lululemon spirituality, right? Like, where you go and you buy your little yoga mat, you buy your little essential oil diffuser, and like, you go out there to get your spirituality, which is already sending you in the completely opposite direction, right? There's no retreat thing. There's no like person. There's nothing out there that's going to give me spirituality. I might get tips, but ultimately I have to go inward. That's what spirituality is. And
the practice.
It's like a marriage. It's like a relationship. It's something you build over time. But nobody teaches us these tools. Now, prayer is wonderful, and prayer is baked into Judaism. I think for a lot of diaspora Jews, though, and I think probably also for Jews for whom Hebrew is the first language, it's very difficult to relate to Jewish prayer. Either because
some of it, but some of it, when we're older, it's, oh my God, that's brilliant.
Medium, like Psalms are gorgeous. But I didn't understand. First of all, I wasn't interested in looking at Psalms until I was later. Mm-hmm. But also, I can relate with Psalms now based on my own human experience. Like, I understand what David was going through when he wrote those. As a kid, but I think first of all, there's a gap with the language, but also if I'm just saying words, who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? What is the point? What am I trying to cultivate? And for me, like one of the biggest gifts of being on a spiritual path since my early 20s is being able to talk to my kids about that. When my son says, I don't know what to do about this, I'm like, okay, so let's sit for 5 minutes, ask Hashem, see what comes up. It's those practical tips of bringing Hashem and God into every day. And we are taught to do that. We're taught to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and handle it by ourselves. There's something weak and uncool about really having faith and believing.
Yeah.
Commercializing it. Exactly. There's something like selling it. There's nothing to be sold. Ultimately, you could have absolutely nothing. You could live on the street and have the most gorgeous, overwhelmingly miraculous relationship with God. Yeah. Unbelievable. I just heard a story the other day of a woman who was getting sober and she was living in a tent in Philadelphia, okay, with her dog and her cat. That's what she could afford at that point. And she had a spiritual experience that launched the rest of her life. She did not need to be at a yoga retreat in San Diego. She didn't need to be doing anything in particular. She didn't need an app. She just needed to do spiritual work, which for me, I found in the 12 steps and in working in recovery. I believe you were asking me about that before to talk about that.
No, so I was seeing through your words that you live recovery in your spirituality. And I find that a lot of people in recovery are the most spiritual human because I think they tap into it because it's surrendering. And I think that's what emunah and bitachon is, right?
That's the great thing about being an addict is that when you're like your back's against the wall and you're face to face with death, it says it in. So we have a basic text called Alcoholics Anonymous, which is they call it the big book. And it tells you, it basically outlines the way the 12 steps work and how to actually do it. And over they say, like, when faced with destruction, like when your life is at stake, you have a choice, get spiritual or die. And it can be really intense and scary when you're in it, but it's the best gift in the world because most people can just float. Yeah, okay. For me, my life depends on it. So I don't have a choice but to do these things. And it's great.
But is it really your life depends on it? Because so many people, you went into recovery for alcohol addiction?
So I'm not going to get too into...
Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So let's say somebody goes into AA because there's different ones, right?
Right. So again, because of anonymity purposes, I'll tell you about my experience, but I'm not going to mention the names of any programs because one of the reasons is you don't mention it on a press level.
Oh, okay. You see how much I'm learning?
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Any fellowships.
Okay.
My disease showed up primarily in abusing food and drugs. So I had a very severe eating disorder from the time I was young. I would binge and purge, and I weighed about 250 pounds by the time I was 14 years old. I tried everything to lose weight. For me, like when I introduced certain foods like flour and sugar into my body, and this is also controversial. There are so many people who are like, food isn't addictive. You can't be addicted to food. Thank you for your feedback. My experience has been that
People really say that?
Yeah, it's a whole controversy about how food is not addictive. Like
really?
Addiction isn't a thing. Okay, maybe not. For me, if I put these foods into my system, I am like an alcoholic. So we can conjecture about it if you want. I just am going on my own experience. So that said, that is one of my primary addictions. And then drugs. Thank God, because I had food first, I didn't have to go too far into the drugs. But someone said to me once, they asked me if I wanted to do coke. And I said, I was 19 years old. I still remember this. And I said to them, I can't, because if I do, I'll like it too much and I won't be able to stop. I knew that about myself, even at 19. I still don't know how I knew that.
That's remarkable that you knew that.
I think I understood how I worked even then, even though I wasn't ready to like do anything about it. But I was like, I see that and I know where I'll go with that. So I'm just gonna... People who...
Such a truth of awareness and connecting to your emet in your gut.
I wasn't trying to. I think I was more like, yeah, I'll probably overdose if I do that.
Wow.
Yeah. Just knowing me, like I would go hard. Like it wouldn't be like one time and that was really fun. Like within a week, I'd be on the streets. It's just how I roll.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just a question of me ending up being like Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction within her time. But anyway, so for me, I got into 12-step recovery when I went to my first meeting when I was like 19, 20 years old. Took me a
What
couple of
made you go?
what made me go. So I
19 years old to say I have a food addiction? That's very
honestly, it was more curiosity than anything. At the time, I was in school for film and screenwriting. And I
Mhm.
was working on a screenplay about the diet industry at the time because I figured if I wrote an expose about how the diet industry doesn't work, everybody wouldn't blame me for being fat anymore. See, it's their fault. And by the way, there is nothing wrong with being fat. I just want to say that.
Okay, good. Okay.
Like, we are not fat shaming here. Bodies are beautiful. If you are healthy and you love yourself and you are we want everybody to be comfortable in their own skin. For me personally, it wasn't about the fact that I was obese. It was about the fact that I felt shameful, uncomfortable in my body, and I was hurting myself. So I just want to delineate that. No fat shaming. Everybody is beautiful. Okay. Anyway, so at the time, I was working on this screenplay and I called my mother, who was like my codependent wingman. And I was living in Boston at the time. She was living in New Jersey. And I said, hey, I heard about this. I still don't know how I heard about this meeting, this fellowship. I have no idea. So I said, listen, I heard about this group of people who get together and talk about food. So go to one of their meetings, call me back and tell me what they said so I can put it in my screenplay. And she was like, okay.
Really?
Yeah. So she was like, all right, that's a totally normal request, right? So she goes to this meeting. She calls me back and she goes, maybe you should go to one of these meetings. I was so insulted. I was so offended. I was like, what? Accusing me of. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my room, like binging to death and like getting high and contemplating suicide, but I'm totally fine. But for some reason, I went online that day. I looked on the website and there was a meeting 3 blocks down from my door. And I was like, okay. It's like the same thing that pulled me out of bed to start Awake Jewish Women. I have no idea what compelled me on a February morning in Boston, Massachusetts, where it's freaking freezing, to put on my boots and my coat and trudge down to this church on Tremont Street in Boston. Okay. So I go into this meeting and I was so confused because, first of all, I think there were maybe 2 people who were overweight in that meeting and everybody else were in like standard size bodies. And I was like, what's going on? Are you guys like spies? What's happening? So I'm sitting there totally confused. There's this poster on the wall with 12 steps and I saw the word God on it and I was like, nope. And there was a guy next to me who said, hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm a compulsive overeater. I'd never heard those words in my entire life. But the minute he said them, I was like, that's me.
I have the goosebumps.
That's what I had gone. I remember when I was 14, I went down to North Carolina to I used to call it the Celebrity Fat Farm. It was like the leading diet and fitness center in the United States. Okay. And they have pictures on the wall, like a hall of fame of all the celebrities that came there to lose weight. So I spent a month there with my mom. And I remember going to this one workshop and there was a woman there who was teaching. She was like a nutritionist type, blonde, of course. Love you blondes, but it's just a vibe. Anyway, so she's talking about like caloric intake versus metabolic output, which basically means eat less, exercise more, and you'll lose weight. And I'm 14 and I'm like, duh, like obviously. But I said to her, I raised my hand in this class and I was like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but what if I'm up in my bedroom and there's like chocolate cake in my kitchen and it's like texting me and it's come eat me. What am I supposed to do? And she looks me in the face and she goes, just don't eat it. Now, people who have my problem will be like, what? I just asked this woman a multiple choice question and just don't eat it is not one of the answers. It's eat it now, eat it later, eat half and hide it so nobody else gets it. Like, it's going to get eaten. It's not a question.
Is that the conversation that goes on in your head?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a question of, am I going to eat this? It's when and how much can I get away with?
Wow.
So when I sat in this meeting for the first time and this person said I'm a compulsive overeater, I realized that I was with people with whom I could say, I can't not eat it. And they would understand what I'm talking. And so I was like, these are my people. And so I started going to meetings. I didn't fully get what was going on. I wasn't really willing yet to do what was suggested to me. But after 2 years, a few things happened that sort of made me really willing. The first was that I was chatting with someone online, like through a dating site, and the chemistry was really good. Like things were going really well. And finally, the inevitable question came of, what do you look like? And at that point, like I said, I was over 200 pounds. Again, no fat shaming, just for me. It was not working for me. And I said to him, I am fat and I'm also in this group and I'm going to lose weight. And I never heard from him again. He just ghosted me. And I think that experience topped off the lifetime of shame that I had gone through growing up as an obese person in the 90s. That was the last straw. As anybody who went through what I went through, who grew up that way, every day was like a little humiliation. Just either outright, if somebody's saying something to you, passing comments, not being able to fit in certain things. I went to an amusement park with my friends once and I couldn't fit in the seat in the ride, like little things that just, and so I think that getting ghosted like that was undone. That was it. Like my quota had been filled. Very shortly after that, I was having a conversation with my mother. And I was really miserable at the time, as one who is active in addiction usually is. And she said to me, she was like, I wish I could fix it for you.
Wow.
And this voice came out of me and said, maybe it's not your job to fix it.
You were 19?
I was 22 at that point.
22.
And we both went, what? Like, it was the first time that it occurred to either of us that like she wasn't supposed to come in and rescue me, that maybe I had to do something. Very shortly after that, I went to a meeting where there were people who had what I wanted, who had lives, who had maintained significant weight loss for a long period of time and were living happily and serenely and were handling life. And I went, maybe if I do what they do, I'll have what they have. Like A plus B equals C. Took me 2 years to get there, but I eventually got there. And that was the beginning of like my real journey into recovery. And now I'm 43, so it's been 21 years.
Okay, I have so many questions. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That's a lot to like process.
Lot to digest.
Yes. So the first time you walked into the meeting, you were 19. And 3 years later.
Yeah. About 2 or 3 years later. Yeah.
You went to your second meeting or you were dabbling?
The whole time. I've been going to meetings the whole time. But
you weren't doing the work? Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't doing what they were saying. Like I was just
saying that you weren't doing.
They suggested I get a sponsor. They suggested that I find a food plan, like a way of eating that would help me, and then talk to my sponsor about doing it. They talked about working the 12 steps. I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in doing the work. I was still waiting for someone to come in and do the work for me so that I could just get the benefits without working hard at it. Here's the thing, right? We have to be, and this is just a human thing, but particularly so for addicts, we have to be in enough pain to be willing to make any changes. Because if the pain of changing is more than the pain of staying the same, I'm going to stay the same. Until the pain of staying the same is too much to bear, I cannot change. But once I hit that point, then I'm going to change. So I had to almost have the information and have these people's voices in my ear and then watch myself do the things, continue doing the things that I didn't want to be doing anymore, and then realize, oh, it's one thing so the first step of any 12-step program is to admit that you're powerless over whatever your drug of choice is. I'm powerless over.
That's the hardest. I can't even relate to that. That is like, what do you mean? But it's not, but in a way, the whole recovery is showing that you are, because you're 20 years into it and you said no. So you're not powerless because you had the power to say.
So
I don't understand.
I love that you asked me that question. Here's the thing, right? Every day of sobriety is a deal that I make with God. When I am maintaining a spiritual experience and turning my life over, God gives me neutrality around those things. I don't do anything except show up and say I'm willing, and then God takes care of it for me. It sounds absurd, but until I got into recovery and worked the program, I had no power of choice. There was no question that I was going to do the crazy things with food that I was going to do, where I was binging one night and almost choked to death. And I couldn't have stopped myself from doing that. I still don't have a choice. If I had a relapse 5 years ago, if I put those things into my system, it's game on again. But when I am working a spiritual program and filling the things in myself that I was trying to fill with food, then God gives me a neutrality around those things. It's powerlessness means that I am not able to stop when I want to or stay stopped comfortably. Most people who are addicts, if they are not working a spiritual program and they don't use their drug, it is very uncomfortable. That's why you see people relapsing a lot. Because if I'm not, here's the thing, right? My default setting as a human being is restless, irritable, and discontent. It's that lack of alignment, that lack of connection. Something's off. I'm missing something, right? We all have it. It's like a spiritual mode.
And is it based on trauma or DNA? It's who you are. Like, let's say you were.
So that's okay. So you're asking a what question, whereas I want to talk about you're asking a why question, whereas I want to talk about a what question, right? Because you and I could sit here speculating for years about why I have this going on, right? Is it because of this? Is it because of this? Is it because of trauma? Maybe. And at the end of the day, it exists. So what am I going to do about it? And you could say tomorrow, scientists could come out and say, okay, because you have gene number XQ1214, you are going to be an addict. Okay, thanks for the information. I still have to go to a meeting.
No, but I think the treatment, if somebody, let's say, has a disease, any disease, and the cause is from an allergy, so stay away from that. Peanuts, you won't have it. Or my husband was staying away from dairy. He was sure he's lactose intolerant his whole life, and he couldn't. And every time he would touch a tiny bit of dairy, he went like it was hell, and he would have to take 3 lactose pills, blah, 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 until he went to some guru in Israel that I told him about that does allergy, whatever. And he's, okay, Matana, it's insane. What are you saying? I know what goes on in the bathroom. There is no... And with one visit, he can eat a cottage cheese and whatever. Now, he could have said, I'm lactose intolerant. I don't have it. But then she's like, no, it's trauma. And she went to the trauma, fixed the trauma. Now, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but some people are born lactose intolerant. Some are based on trauma. So fix the trauma. Now, we just did Father's Day. What does daddy love most? What's his favorite breakfast? Is cheese and cottage cheese. He couldn't even dream about it. Now it's what he lives. No lactose pills, nothing. So I'm saying is sometimes when we know what it is, the treatment is not really effective. It's just sustained versus is there a way to heal a trauma and then it's not there anymore? That's my question.
So that's a really good question. I'm really glad you brought up allergies because in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they refer to alcoholism as an allergy, right? It is there's a bodily aspect and there's a mental aspect. Now, I'll give you another example, okay? My aunt is allergic to strawberries. If she eats them, she goes into anaphylactic. So she doesn't eat them. That's the end of the story. So if you say to me, if I have evidence already, okay, if I eat A, B, and C, I'm going to do A, B, and C. I have that information. The problem with addicts is that we have a brain that tells us we don't have an allergy, which is why we keep
lies to you.
Not just lies, but convinces us that we need it. And the truth is we do, because the discomfort of living without that drug is so intense that we have to go back and get it. It is not just about the physical piece. It is
which is the big. So, okay. So I guess that's the difference between it's the conversation that comes with it.
Right.
I once heard Ellie Nash interview, I think she's an addict herself, and she became a therapist or she helps with addiction. And she said, an addict is not what they do. It's that thought right before.
Yep. They say the crux of the problem are the mental states that precede the first drink. Because if you told me, okay, don't eat those things, you won't have a problem. And I go, oh, okay. And I go home. Why do I need a book? Why do I need to go to meetings for that? It's just basic information. Don't do it. Okay. It's like that nutritionist said, just don't eat it. The issue is not that I can't eat it. The issue is that I have a brain that tells me I can't not eat it. And I will go back over and over again and do the same thing. Any alcoholic will tell you the same thing. The issue is not that my body reacts this way. It's that my brain is telling me that it won't.
So important. That is so important. That's so important.
Addicts from everybody else.
Okay.
That's why you have someone, for example, who takes a sip of wine at dinner and leaves it on the table and ignores it. They're not thinking. For people like us, the only thing we see for the rest of the dinner is that glass of wine on the table. And we're just waiting for you to go so that we can finish it. Or we'll help you, and we'll offer to clean up. We'll offer to help you clear the table so that we can drink it in the kitchen.
Wow.
So it's not just the physical allergy. There's a lot more going on. And our experience has shown even back in 1938, 1939, when they first wrote the AA book, or back in 1934, when the founder, Bill Wilson, got sober, these weren't people without information. Some of their founding members went to Carl Jung, who was like the top psychologist in the world, father of modern psychology. Okay.
Right.
And he even said to them, the only thing that's going to help you is what they called moral psychology, which is basically a spiritual experience. There is nothing I can do for you mentally that is going to change this for you.
Wow.
And any alcoholic will attest to that. We spent thousands of dollars in therapy. We've done the treatments. We've done the detoxes. We've gone to all the health farms. Look at Matthew Perry, right? He had every single resource available to him, a millionaire. He even opened a rehab, I think, at one point. I think he said he went to rehab like 100 and something times. Maybe I'm making that up. I don't know. And then he died.
I read his memoir in one sitting.
A couple months ago.
Oh my God.
I read it. It was heartbreaking.
And my kids are like, why are you so obsessed with it? I said, first of all, I loved him as a personality. Sure. And now that I know the story, you can watch Friends and see and it's heart-wrenching and inspiring at the same time that he showed up. He showed up.
He tried. And then he died of a ketamine overdose. Because that's what happens to us if we do not work a spiritual program.
So what happened to him? Like, why didn't 12 steps? He went to so many. How did it not help him?
So I am not his sponsor.
I'm saying in general, people what is, so you know what? Let me forget about Matthew Perry. My question to you is, if anything works, you're saying if anything works is 12 steps. Does 12 steps have for addicts? If anything works, it's only that. That with other things, but it has to be
issues that might need to be dealt with, like maybe you need for something else. I'm on medication for anxiety. Like if you have outside issues, but addiction itself, my experience and the experience of millions of other addicts is that the 12 steps are the only thing that work.
But for some people, it doesn't work, and it's because we don't know why. So let's go.
So I'll be honest, my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not qualified. I'm only an addict doing her best to recover every day. My opinion is that I think people aren't being exposed to the 12 steps as they're truly supposed to be done, even within the 12-step community. Because the way it was founded back in 1934, 1935 in Ohio, these people were deeply religious / spiritual people, and it was all about God. Then in the 60s and 70s, you had people like, I can't remember her name. She was a first lady who started speaking out. Betty Ford, that was her name, Betty Ford. She started speaking about her own addiction issues. And so people started opening rehabs and detox centers. And they started introducing other modalities like group therapy and all these other things, which are helpful, but are not the solution to addiction. And so you go to a lot of meetings today and you will not hear people talking about the steps. You will hear people talking about their girlfriend or their job or talking about how difficult life is for them. You have people who are sober, but they're really miserable because they're not actually living a spiritual life. Being in program and working the 12 steps and relying on a God of your understanding are two very different things. When people are sober and not working the 12 steps, they're dry. Dry is different than really sober. And I don't say that with judgment because I was dry for 2 years, even after I got clean.
So that was the difference. I'm going back to that question. You're saying that's what the difference was between the first 2 years went from 19 to 22 when you first went, and then you said, and then I found a meeting that I said, okay, these are the people that this is what I want to be, so I'm going to be here. So you switched the meeting, you switched your mindset. What was it? Your
Meeting. I had been going to that meeting for a while, but I think
Oh,
I was willing to do something more than what I was doing, which was at that point, stop eating the way I was eating. And then here's the thing though, I didn't really get into the spirituality until 2 years after that, because at first I started losing weight, and losing weight was what I was after, right? I just thought if I get thin, the credits of my movie will roll and everything will be perfect. The problem was I got down to 120 pounds, 125 pounds. That was actually way too thin. And all of a sudden, the world started treating me like I was a normal person. But I hadn't changed on the inside. I hadn't really done any work. I had just I'd basically been on a glorified diet for 2 years. And I found as a thin person that I was even more anxious, rageful, uncomfortable, and restless than I had ever been at 250 pounds for two reasons. Number one, because at least at 250 pounds, I had some kind of buffer. I had my body to buffer me, and I had a drug that I could use. Now I was completely unmedicated. I was clean and sober, but I had never actually dealt with the real issue that was forcing me to eat in the first place. So really, I was walking around like a tension ball all the time. It was so uncomfortable. That's what it's like to live as an addict who's not working the 12 steps and developing spiritually.
I thought that it's automatic. Like you won't be able. So you're saying that the 12 steps is a 2-part thing.
I'm saying that you can walk into a meeting and through fellowship and going to meetings, you can get sober, but you will not stay sober comfortably unless you're working the 12 steps and working a spiritual life. That's what I'm saying.
And the community doesn't. I thought that it's designed in a way that you can't escape without it all. But you're saying you could if you wanted to.
You can coast your whole life if you want. I know people with 35 years of sobriety who do not work the 12 steps. They're miserable, but they're not drinking. They're very difficult to be around. They've been married 4 times. Their kids don't talk to them, but they're sober.
So what keeps them sober?
Maybe stubbornness. Maybe the fact that at least it's better than it was. Because here's the thing, right? We can always do things half measures. It's the pain of staying the same. I honestly am not sure what keeps people sober for a really long time, except maybe it becomes a habit like anything else. But the restlessness, irritability, and discontentment that is my default setting doesn't just go away. That's why I always return to my drugs. And so if I don't have another way to live, I'm just going to be uncomfortable for the rest of my life, like deeply soul uncomfortable. That's what the 12 steps is for.
This is like fascinating. Yeah. I think that's what surrendering to God and true faith and true spiritual work is.
Yeah. Yeah. Of acknowledging that I cannot run my life by myself, because when I do, I just make a mess. Not that I'm not capable, but I'm not using my resources in the way that I'm designed to. I'm working against my own design. I think of it, I explain it.
Because in a way it's sad to hear. Like as somebody that, I don't know, I think it was, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love? I keep forgetting her. Yeah. Elizabeth, yeah. So she believes that everybody has an addiction, right? Everybody.
I agree.
We just, some people it wrecks their life, some people don't. Some people, they can go through it without it physically manifesting.
Yeah, or you do something that's a little bit more socially acceptable or not so damaging, and you can get away with it. And I say that without judgment. Scrolling or shopping or people pleasing or busyness, all of those things are addiction.
But it's an addiction, like you explained before, that it's never a no. The option is not, you said, not eating it is not an option. So somebody that's addicted to pleasing, and they have a conversation with themselves, or, okay, I really shouldn't. Oh, there is some kind of a dialogue, but they do it anyway.
You're making an assumption, though, that they're even aware that they're doing it. Like, sometimes there is no conversation. We're just doing it because that's what we do. There are so many behaviors that I've engaged in, not even thinking, because that's what I've been trained to do.
Doesn't mean that you can't. Just because you didn't doesn't mean you can't. You're saying an addict, even when they are aware, they can't. So you go to AA.
Correct.
So that's the difference. So let's say somebody's, oh, wow, I was addicted to people pleasing. And then
there's a fellowship called Al-Anon, which is for friends and family of addicts. And the people in there are also addicted. They're addicted to their addicts. And they're codependents who are trying to make life okay because they think that if only their addict would be okay, then they would be okay.
Right.
When your addict gets sober and you're still uncomfortable, that tells you something. When you're still engaging in those old behaviors. So is it addiction on the same level, life-threatening level, as somebody who ODs on coke in like a penthouse in the St. Regis? No. But are you missing a piece of your life? Is there something off? Is there something that feels like out of sync? Is there a sense of like real deep misalignment and loneliness and pain? Yeah, that's a death in itself. It may not be to the same level, but there is a sense of not being fully alive when we're stuck in something that controls us. Just how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I disagree with Elizabeth saying that everybody is an addict. Maybe we're all addicted, but that doesn't mean that recovery looks the same from scrolling. Like,
sure,
you know what I'm saying? Or from people pleasing, or from whatever it is, codependency, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But the way you explained, there was such a, wow, the way you said about the chocolate cake. Wow, that literally you have no choice. But then you bring in the 12 steps and but then you bring in the 12 steps and the choice comes, and then you are in choice.
There is no choice. Today, if I went downstairs and ate a piece of chocolate cake, it's game over for me. The point is,
but you're choosing not to have cake in the house or not look at the cake.
I make challah every week. I make all kinds of stuff. The difference is because I am not living with that same desperate restlessness or discomfort when I have another way to live and deal with life. I don't need to use those things. I'm neutral around it. Remember, I'm not dealing with the physical part. The physical part's gone. I don't have cravings anymore. I haven't eaten these things in a really long time. My problem, remember, is my mind that tells me that I can go and have these things. So the 12 steps are not dealing with the physical. I will always have that physical reaction to these things. 12 steps are there to give me a spiritual solution so that my thinking changes. Remember we talked about the shift in perception before? When I start thinking of the world and myself differently, I'm no longer in that spiritual illness that I need to medicate with food. I'm feeding myself spiritually. And so I'm neutral around food because I don't need it the way that I needed it before. However, if even in the spiritual state that I am in now today, which is significantly healthier than I was at one point, I'm by no means a guru or like floating on a cloud somewhere, but I do a lot of work. But if I went downstairs right after this podcast and ate a piece of chocolate cake, it's game over. Maybe not immediately, maybe in a week from now, maybe in a month from now, but I know how these things go. So the 12 steps don't get rid of the physical allergy, but they fix my mind. They quiet my mind and they soothe my soul so that my need to eat that way, the need to use drugs that way, the need to seek out unavailable men or male attention is gone. That's the difference.
I'm speechless because I'm like, the transformation from such hopelessness to complete living with accountability, with owning, with looking the death in the eye and saying, nope. I
hear stories like this every day in my life. I hear like people whose lives have transformed, and not just because they're not drinking. It's because they have done work that has allowed them to open up and develop a spiritual connection that literally transforms their lives, that removes blocks inside of them, that shifts behaviors and character defects and patterns that got in their way, and helps them find a new way of living. Because the way that I was eating was really just a symptom of the way I was living. If I have a new way to live, I don't need to use those things anymore. I live differently now. And that's why I'm different. It's not because I am fundamentally a different person. The way that I live and the choices I made changed, which changed me. That's the difference.
But it changed you, but not to a degree that it changes the game over once you touch it,
We
which is
talked about that last time, right?
that's like the that's the thing that fascinates me.
Neuroplasticity, certain things. Like I said before, right? You cannot.
Right.
I believe in neuroplasticity for certain things, but like I can't neuroplasticity myself to grow a few inches. I would love to. Trust me, I'm 5'4". I would love like 3 more inches. It's not going to happen. I can't neuroplasticity my nails to grow overnight. It's not going to happen. It just doesn't work like that. For people who are addicts, in my personal unscientific opinion, they can't neuroplasticity themselves out of addiction. However, I do believe the 12 steps are a practice of neuroplasticity to a certain degree, in that we learn to function differently, but you cannot neuroplasticity the physical reaction to the drug in a way. You can't.
But not everybody that's addicted to somebody is an addict, to something or somebody an addict, right? Because I interviewed, I forgot his name, Menachem Poznansky. He opened the living room. I think it's called the living room, different. And I asked him, I said, do you believe that everyone that's coming into recovery and going clean or going to facility is fundamentally an addict? And he said, no, sometimes they become addicted to something and they're not even an addict, but they have to go through recovery.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're not an addict they're not once an addict, always an addict. He said, sometimes guys that go to yeshiva and they're introduced to alcohol and they're like, hey, this is cool. And then they become addicted to it, but they're not an addict in their personality.
I hear that. I know people who went to rehab because they were drinking or using too much. They got clean and sober and now even drink. And they don't necessarily binge drink. They just drink in moderation. So I would say that those people are not real addicts. I would say they are hard drinkers or hard users. There's a difference between hard drinkers and hard users and actual addicts, or that we cross a line where we lose the power of choice forever. It's like a cucumber and a pickle, right? If you take a cucumber and you put it in brine, once a cucumber becomes a pickle, it's not going back to being a cucumber. It's not going to happen. Alcoholics are pickles.
And I think only the actual pickle can tell you if they're a pickle.
Math.
No one outside of that pickle jar can tell you. No one. No guru, no doctor, nothing. Just the pickle can tell you if they're a pickle, or they can.
Only your experience for years. This is actually, you'll love this story. So I have a very close friend. I've known her for 25 years now. We went to college together and we're still like best friends. And back then, I didn't really notice her drinking because we were all drinking and partying. But over time, like I became aware, like what was going on with her. And I got into recovery and she was aware of what I was doing. And a few times over the years, she was like, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And I was like, yeah. But she wasn't there. During Corona, I woke up one morning. She lives in Massachusetts. I lived in New Jersey at the time. During Corona, I woke up one morning and I started meditating. And I got this message in my head that was like, go to Western Mass and see Alyssa. And I was like, what? Like, it's Corona. I'm not going to Western Mass to see Alyssa. Went back to meditation. Go to Western Mass and see Alyssa. And I was like, okay. So I got in my car. I had some stuff to give her anyway. So I got in my car, drove up to Western Mass, show up at her house. And obviously we were like thrilled to see each other. And she says to me, she's like, let's go for a ride. I want to show you like around. So we're driving and she says, I think I'm an alcoholic and I need help. Can you take me to a meeting? That night she went to her first meeting and she's been sober ever since. The point,
one meeting changed. She never drank since.
Not meaning she's ready. She was ready. She went to her first meeting. She's been going to meetings ever since. She's a sponsor. She did the 12 steps, doing all the things. But the point, 25 years we've known each other. She's seen what I've been doing. She sees what I'm talking about. She saw what I'm about. But it wasn't until that day when I came to her house that she told me that she was an alcoholic. And then she was ready to do it.
Oh, you're saying owning it.
Yeah. I could tell her that she was, but until the day that she went, that is when she got better. And she's almost up 5 years now. It's a crazy story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't that one? So tell me the 12 steps. I thought it was one of them. Is it?
Yeah. So step one is, I'm just going to read them out because I have them here. And if you have questions, stop me and I'm happy to explain. Okay. 1 second. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Step 4, making a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8.
It's all about God.
Yeah, they only mention alcohol.
No wonder agnostics have a hard time with this.
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening, as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in our.
Oh, paying it forward.
But the goal of this
acts of service.
The goal of this is to have a spiritual experience. So I teach workshops, I sponsor, and I take everything that I learn and give it away because I have to. But to answer your question about agnostics, so the word agnostic, and I don't want to confuse agnostics and atheists, right? As I said, I'm very...
No, they're different. They're very different.
But agnostic comes from the root A. The prefix A in Latin means no, like not, and GNO means knowledge. So not knowledge. They might believe in something. They just don't know what. The beauty
It's also, someone explained to me, an agnostic said, I choose to believe that there isn't, and I don't want to go and search. I choose to believe that there's no God, and maybe there isn't, maybe there's partial. I'm choosing to live a godless life.
Correct. Or I'm choosing not to trust and act as if there is a God.
Okay.
But all of those things are true. However,
taking a break for a few seconds to give you a quick announcement. If you haven't joined our Listening to Understand WhatsApp community, please do so now. There's a link in the show notes. We're going to be sharing more exciting stuff only for the members of the Listening to Understand WhatsApp community. See you there.
The beauty of the 12-step fellowship, the beauty of the 12 steps is that no one's asking you to believe in capital G God. What they are asking is for you to believe in a power greater than you. Something that is beyond you. Now, that can be the power of the 12 steps. It can be the power of the fellowship. The idea is that life as I have been living it is a disaster. And in order for me to get well, I have to find a power that's greater than me in order to live. So when they say God of your understanding, that means that if you have a God that you don't like, fire him, hire another one. It doesn't, it's about creating a relationship with something bigger. And I know people who have very strong recoveries who genuinely do not believe in the capital G God, but they do believe in the power of the 12 steps and in the power of the work. The idea is not to convince people that God exists, but to convince people that they need one. They need a God, whatever that God is, because that's the key to long-term sobriety. Healthy, happy sobriety, I should say.
How many meetings do you go to every single week? How does it work?
How does it work? So typically,
you're 20-something years in it, and you said to me right before we started, you're like, and I found a meeting on Zoom. I'm like, oh my God, she's still going to meetings?
I go to 2 to 3 meetings a week still.
Your whole life?
Yeah. God willing, I want to do it for the rest of my life. These are my people. These are the people I can talk to who are doing the same thing I'm doing, who are living the same kind of life that I'm trying to live. It's like tennis. If I want to play with good players, I want to up my game.
Oh, I like that.
I want to be around people who are playing a hard game because they're going to teach me how to get better.
But you are better already. So are you the teacher now?
I have plenty more work to do. Ask my husband. I have lots more work to do. There are so many areas of my life where I still have work to do. And
it happens in the meeting? The work happens in the meetings?
We talk about what we're up to, and then we do the 12-step work outside of the meetings, either with sponsors or with groups or whatever. But these are people who are here to talk about what's going on with them and how they're using the 12 steps to improve their lives. And you hear incredible stories in there. This morning, I had a meeting on Zoom. Usually I have a studio next to my house, so I have 2 meetings there a week. One is
So you run the meetings?
I don't run them. They're just held in my studio. Just people come together and we have meetings.
Wait 1 second. So I just want to give context. You live in like a little moshav yishuv, right?
No, I live
No,
in a town, like a suburb. So I
in
have
a suburb. And
suburbs.
so many people come to a meeting in
Not
a
so many.
suburb?
Right now for our big book 12-step meeting, which is for all addictions, anybody who's
Mhm.
addicted, I think comes that way. Depends on the week. We can get between 5, 6 at the most, but usually we have like 3 or 4. And then I
Mhm.
have a 12-step group specific to my addiction. And depending on the week, usually we get between 4 and 7, something like that. But that's a solid group. All you need is 2 people.
That is
So,
solid. And
yeah,
you're saying they're all the same addiction. So that's like very niche.
really great. That is,
Wow.
thank God. So I have a studio next to my house, and I let people use the space for 12-step meetings. And so 2 days a week, I have one on Mondays and one on Wednesdays. And if I can, I try to get on a different meeting a week. Thank God a friend of mine who has a bunch of people in the States that she's connected to had a meeting yesterday. So I hopped on there. I hope to go to meetings forever. One of the most inspiring people that I know or that I've heard, he was an alcoholic. His name was Sandy Beach. And if you're ever interested in hearing like incredible talks, find him on YouTube, Sandy Beach.
Wait 1 second. Can I stop you for a second? You said was. Isn't it like is?
He passed away. But here's
Okay.
the story, okay? He died in his 80s at a meeting. Like in like with a copy of the big book open.
Doing his avodat kodesh.
Bravo that Kodesh. So I hope I either want to die in my sleep at 100 when I'm like really sassy and wearing caftans and have like big hair and I'm a crazy lady, or in a meeting. Happy
Wow.
with me. I hope to do this forever. God willing, one day.
Amen. You're such a cheerleader for the community. I feel they say, yes, God chooses, you were the chosen one. And I don't know if you want to hear that you were the chosen one for this because it's a hard task, but it's beautiful to see how you cheerlead and you're so passionate about it. And I'm curious, well, Lisa Bulow, another lady that you need to
I've
interview.
heard her name, yeah.
Okay. So she's a Giores, she's a convert, and she always says, I don't have the disabilities that from birth people have. She's like, I don't come with shame.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering.
I come with my own shame, but for different reasons. I also became Choseret B'Tshuva, like attorney.
So that's my next question
as a
to you.
result of this process. Yes. As I started waking up my spirituality, I found myself getting pulled to observant Judaism. And I went kicking and screaming. Okay. And I was like, no. My father became religious when I was 14. And I was like, why is he hanging out with all those weird black and white penguins in Brooklyn? No, thank you. That was my own prejudice because obviously there's a lot more as a community than that. But I found I was looking for more meaning in my life. I wanted to have Shabbat dinners. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a community. And I just found that it spoke to my soul in a way that resonated. And I tried a lot of other different things. I had gone to the ashrams and the yoga retreats that I was talking about. I've done all of that. I went to go see this Indian avatar in a German castle in a countryside, hoping that she would look me in the eyes and give me enlightenment. Like I've done it all. Okay.
And
But
you found it in religion?
no, I found my connection through the 12 steps. I found my spirituality through the 12 steps, but I found community and purpose and an enriched life in Judaism. For me, in the beginning, when I took on religious Judaism, I don't even like the word religious. I guess like observant Judaism.
Observant.
Yeah, I don't even like word, whatever.
Okay.
Because I don't like to put myself in a box either. Like I'm the
Right.
whatever I am. But I struggled with melding that religion and spirituality piece because within the religious community, I thought, okay, I'll go with the religious ones because at least there I can talk about God and it won't be weird. I grew up more conservative and reformed. So that was 25 years ago. I have no idea what the culture in those communities is like now, but back then there was not a lot of dialogue about God. I don't think I ever heard the rabbi of my shul use the word God ever growing up. But I was like, okay, I'll hang out with the religious people because if I talk about spirituality, they won't look at me sideways. But the kind of conversations that I was having in my 12-step groups with people who weren't religious at all, or who weren't even Jewish, I couldn't have them with most of the religious people that I met, the religious Jews, because there's still a level of accountability and ownership and real inner work that just isn't talked about in that community. It's like, just dress more modestly. just say Tehillim, just go do more things and you'll feel more connected. And I tried that. I really wanted to be a good Jewish girl for a while. I dressed the part. I did the wig and the tights, and I wanted to do it right because I thought, okay, that will make me feel more connected. But it actually just ended up confusing me more because my insides and my outsides weren't matching. And I had lost the script where I remembered that spirituality is inside. I can take on more outside to feel more connected to my community, that communal belief and practice that we were talking about before. And maybe it can even make me feel connected in a way to God. But it's not sustainable in the way that spiritual work is. And that's not to say that doesn't exist in Judaism. You know, that you have people like Reb Eliyahu Dessler who talked about Cheshbon HaNefesh. And you have Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, who talked about, why am I blanking on the name of his book? But and there are people like the School of Musar, which are development. Those things exist within Judaism. But interestingly, they are movements that occurred later on for people who were looking for that, who were looking for those kinds of connections. So for me, honestly, I feel like my spirituality, my 12-step work comes first. And my Judaism is an expression of that versus I'm a Jew and my religion brought me spirituality. That's not my experience. That's not to say that being Jewish isn't extremely important to me and fundamental to me. And I'm extremely proud of it. And I feel so deeply connected to my Jewishness. And that is deeply tied in with my spiritual work and my tafkid, my purpose in this world. But for me, that wasn't the avenue to the work, to the connection that I have.
So you chose religion in bite size of what you feel connected to, not as a package deal. I'm going to do it slowly with what I feel, feels spiritual to me.
Sometimes I took on too much, or I did this, or I did that. It's a journey.
But I'm saying now when you're in it, you feel like...
I finally feel like my Jewish life reflects my spiritual world because I am not Jewish in a way that pleases anyone but me and God. I am not here to change who I am to make it in the club. I'm not here to dress a certain way for people to think that I'm doing a good job as a Jewish woman. There are things, for example, that are big for Jewish women, like doing, I shouldn't say big for Jewish women, but there's that Eshet Chayil, that woman of valor caricature that they say, like the woman who's constantly doing for other people, who's constantly helping and going, and Tzaddiket, who's doing all this chesed for the community. That's not me. I'm not out making meals for Miluim wives, not because they don't deserve it, but because that stresses me out. And then if I do that, I can't show up for my family. My service is I have 2 12-step meetings in my studio in my house so that Jewish addicts can come and find a place.
That homes can survive. Literally, they can survive and not fall apart. If it's the personal home or if they're part of a parent, a sister, or whatever.
Other thing I'll say too is that my work as part of a Week Jewish Women, my work as a spirituality coach in my workshops, my goal is never to make anyone more religious. I do not teach Torah classes. I am not here to make you go take on mitzvot or dress a certain way or light Shabbat candles. That's none of my damn business. That is between you and God, how you want to do your Judaism. What I am here to do is offer tools to help you wake up to yourself, wake up to your God, a God that works for you, with whom you feel connected, so that you can live the life that you were designed for. Because guess what? Not every Jewish woman is supposed to look like a woman in Bnei Brak. Not every Jewish woman is supposed to look like the way I look or the way you look. We are all designed with our own design. And so I just want you to be the best you, whatever that looks like. That's to me what being awake is about. It's not about a one-size-fits-all thing. You're just supposed to be the best, most conscious you. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for me, for sure. So that's what I'm trying to do here.
That is so beautiful. Awake to ourselves and who we are. Sometimes we're so sleeping at the wheel on autopilot and we're not even connecting to who we truly are.
Yeah,
and the unique self.
Thinking we're awake.
Yeah, it's so true. And talking about addiction, sometimes the addiction is being so fitting in order not to go inward. Fitting into them, into the what they expect me to be. And it's so blinding. So because going inward is so painful.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of religious people who are on the surface very pious and they're doing so many good things for the community. And they really take on so much in terms of halakha, Jewish law. And then they go home and verbally abuse their families. It's very sad, not just for their families, but for them, because they're missing the point, right? Like the whole point of Judaism is a connecting religion, right? It says, Ben Adam, they're meant to be connected to ourselves, to the sacred, and to each other. And if I'm using Judaism in a way that disconnects me to any of those things, then I'm missing the whole point. That's why for me, like when I hear about sinat chinam, or people saying, oh, they're not like this enough, they're not that enough, or even they should be like this, you're missing the point. We are supposed to be connected. We should not be looking for reasons to be disconnected, right? I have to find the reasons to stay connected to myself, to God, and to everybody else. And if the differences are glaring, that's fine. You're still human. You're still a beloved creation of Hashem who wants you here. And I don't get to decide if that's true or not. The end. And if that's all we have in common, that's fine. We don't have to be best friends. But I'm not here to change who you are.
Right. Our belonging is just because we are Jews. That's our belonging.
Is contingent on the fact we exist. There's this whole thing about earning our place here, like we have to be enough. My belief is if God created me and put me here, I'm already enough. I already qualified. God's like, you need to be here. Done. I don't need to do anything else. I have plenty I can do. I literally need to do nothing else to earn my worth here. I'm done. It's a done deal.
Beautiful. Such a beautiful way of existing. And it's fun in a way.
So fun because I have nothing to lose. Like I already did it. I'm here. So now I get to just do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. Do you feel that the religious community has more taboo around and shame around recovery? Yes?
Yeah, for sure. But not around actual recovery. First of all, around addiction.
Like, addiction. It's like everything's taboo and
years behind conversation about addiction.
Even though so much is happening in the last 10 years, even 5 years, how much evolved?
So I think I'm just talking about the religious community now. I think there's definitely more awareness in the not so religious communities than even
the religious itself even.
I'm talking, you know why? Because I'm not sure about the busha, like the embarrassment of it. But there's a thing about people being afraid it's going to affect their kids' marriage prospects.
Shidduchim, right.
Which, you want to drive me crazy? Bring that up to me. You want to drive me crazy? Thing? Oh my God. Like, if you're so afraid that your child isn't going to find a partner, then you don't have much faith. You don't trust in Hashem then. If you're so concerned that something that's true and okay about you and your family, and you can't even acknowledge and own that,
because they're not owning exactly what you said, because they're not owning it.
Right.
There's no acceptance.
Listen,
there's shame, there's denial,
and the shame is what makes it a problem, by the way. If somebody walks in the room and goes, listen, my brother's an alcoholic, it's not easy, sucks, but I go to Al-Anon or I go to therapy and this is just the issue. It's just a fact. It's just a plain fact. If somebody keeps it a secret, then it becomes a problem. You make it a problem. We make things problems. I'd say all situations are just situations until we decide they're a problem. Wow. It's just what it is. So, like me,
I think Ellie Nash sent me his. Are you there? Did I lose
Hi,
you?
You're frozen.
Yeah, you're there. So,
okay,
Ellie Nash sent me once something about shame and secrecy, very similar to what Brene Brown talks about. That, right? That vulnerability.
Yeah. Guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is there's something wrong with me.
Or the story we tell ourselves about who we are because of that. And I think there's still a lot, but you touched on something very important, that there's still a lot of don't share because you don't know what's going to happen. You won't get into schools. You won't have shidduchim, blah, blah, blah.
Twofold problem, right? Because it's not only about us being ashamed. It's about a system that says you have to be this perfect, shiny little example or we won't.
But what I'm coming first full circle here is, and I'm wondering how you deal with it, is basically it's the story of if I'm fat, I won't be seen, so I have to lose weight. So it's the same thing. So I'm curious to know, how did you not now that you lost your weight and you're very mindful with what you're eating, how did you disconnect from that story? Because it's still a story. You still, that if you're going to gain a lot of weight, you're going to go back into that narrative
Yes,
of,
I did gain weight at one point. I did relapse. And I've also had 3 kids. So like I'm
right.
definitely not a teeny weeny
But
little.
you still know, as you said, you still know, oh, I was 120 and I started being seen like normal, blah, 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 blah. There is still such an image problem in our world, such an image problem. So how do you recover and not have that shame inside,
So
and that I don't want to be seen for my exterior? I don't want that. So how do we do that? But I'm changing my exterior, but at the same time, I don't want them to see me as that. Like, how do we disconnect from that? And the same thing with fitting in into the system of what they want us to be. Is my question?
totally.
Yeah.
So bottom line is 2 things. I cannot control how other people see me, and other
Mhm.
people's opinions of me are none of my business.
Okay.
They're irrelevant. They're not part of my story.
Okay.
Ultimately, at the
Okay.
end of the day, my discomfort comes down to my opinions about myself. And in order for me to feel comfortable in my own skin, I have to tell myself a story that is true and honest and kind at the same time. Now, I am, like I said, I've had 3 children. I do not weigh 125 pounds anymore. I'm not fat. I'm not thin. I just look like a regular, normal person. For me now, when shame comes up, it's not because of my body. And it's not because I'm different. I've always been different, even before I became religious. I've always been different. It's because I tell myself that being different makes me bad or not enough or unworthy. It's hard. We as humans are social creatures. Our survival depends on belonging to a clan. Like back in caveman times, if you didn't have a clan, you died. So
Right.
our fundamental needs are tied to that, this need to be accepted and part of and belonging. And a lot of addicts
Yeah.
will tell you that's like something they felt like they were missing at a time in their
Right.
life. I think for me now, in order to combat shame, is more authenticity and surrounding myself with people who are pursuing the same thing.
That's exactly what Brene Brown talks about.
Cool. So
The
Brene,
more vulnerable.
and myself, the less
Right.
I have to feel because there's no
Yeah.
secrets.
Vulnerability is the antidote to shame. Finding your people in your arena that cheer for you. There will always have people in your arena that won't cheer for you,
Mhm.
but focus on the ones that are cheering for you and choose to spend time with them and make them don't make them your community. Don't create a life of fitting in, create a life of belonging. And the Orthodox community is very into fitting in. And we lose our belonging. We
Right.
lose our authenticity. We lose our sense of self. We lose our connection to ourself and God within the way that you're saying, to awake to what is true to you, not true to the community. But we're so craving connection, and we're so craving like to not be alone, that we will lose ourselves in order to fit in.
It's Akedat Yitzchak. We will sacrifice ourselves and even our children in order
Mamash.
to the community, in order to what we believe is survival. It is no accident that I created Awake Jewish Women as a community for awake Jewish women. There are no qualifications to be part of it, except that you are or want to be an awake Jewish woman. You do not have to be religious. You do not have to be not religious. If you just want in on your life and you just want to be in on yourself, that's all you need to be, even for religious Jews. That's part of the reason why it took me a long time to find my place within the Jewish community. You know where my place is? Right freaking here. That's it. I just have to do me. Everybody else, there are going to be people who are thrown off by how I do it. That's okay. That's fine. I'm not going to please everybody. I'm not here to please everybody. I tried to please everybody. It exhausted me. I'm here to be myself. And I will find a community that embraces that. It may not be the Jewish community at large, Hey, I
Yeah.
would rather feel on the outside of the larger community, but be surrounded with people who get me and who I get and who are really showing up. I would way rather that. I'm also very lucky because I have a 12-step community.
Hmm.
My existence, my sense of belonging is not reliant on the Jewish community. I already have my people. But within the Jewish community, every time I meet someone like you and I'm like, oh, good, a live one. Like, oh, great. Okay, fine. So we're there. And there can be more of us if we just wake up and we let go of the need to prove that we belong. If we don't,
Yeah,
like, so many of us are trying to belong, but the cost is too high. So,
exactly. The cost is too high, and it's not living alive, it's living dead.
yeah.
It's literally surviving and not thriving, and it's painful.
And
It's
I'll tell you
painful.
something, I don't know anything for sure about Hashem, about God, but I genuinely do believe that's not what he wants for us. He does not want us turning ourselves into robots or shutting down pieces of ourselves in order to fit in. I can't
Well,
get with a God that jives like that. I just can't.
yeah, and if we look at Tanakh, is there anyone there that inspired us that fit in? But every hero in Tanakh
Yeah.
is somebody that broke the rules.
Yeah. That's what we do. That's why we're Jews, man. Like,
So I want you to share with me as we come to a closing, even though I feel like I just
we
touched
could
the
just talk
surface.
about it.
But you really gave such a, first of all, permission to people to start reaching out, to finding out about recovery and understanding that there's so much growth. Besides, it's not only staying clean, it's about healing.
That's right.
It's the spiritual path.
Well, yeah.
So thank you for that and for breaking the stigma, because there's still a lot of work we need to do in our community.
Yep.
What are two things that you hope to see within the more Orthodox community that can shift the way people look at recovery? If there's two things you could give somebody to, or what, a little bit better, if
Mhm.
somebody wants to start their own personal journey, two things that they could still start going out of their comfort zone to start seeing who they are, what they are.
Two things they could do. Well, for women that come to my workshops, shameless plug.
Okay. So tell us about the workshop. What is it?
I have a workshop called Inward. It's a 5-part series, and it takes all of those pieces that we were talking about, like this, in order to wake up to our own design and deal with the things that get in our way, like the fear, the shame, the resentment, our ideas about what God is, authenticity, all of those things. We talk about those concepts and then use practical tools that are, a lot of them are 12-step inspired, to break them down. And it's also a place to build community with women who are trying to do this work. It's a 5-part series. Like, they can sign up on awakejewishwomen.com. So I highly recommend that.
Great.
But also, just for people who want to start really engaging on their spiritual journey, sit down for 5 minutes a day and just be quiet.
Yeah.
Don't look at your phone. Don't do anything. Sit down, close your eyes, and spend a little time with yourself. Let yourself be in silence for 5 minutes. See who you are. See what you're thinking. See what you're feeling. Observe. And then see who comes to spend time with you while you're in that silence. Begin there and then watch where you're led.
Oh, I love that. I love that because we often are so afraid of the silence because the truth comes out, because the truth really comes out in silence. And when you do the work, you realize that you crave the silence because you want to do more work, and the noise distracts from the work. So you're like, okay, I need my meditation. People that go through the journey of the awakening, they crave meditation and silence because that's where it all happens. That's where the magic happens.
I told you that story about my friend Alyssa. It came to me in meditation that I should go see her.
Yeah.
And look what happened. It's not because of me she got sober, but the point was I showed up exactly where I needed to show up because I brought that message. Imagine if I was just too busy and not paying attention.
Right. What are two books that changed your life besides the 12-step book? Okay, I'm going to remove that because I know that a lot of people say that one right away. So I'm going to remove that.
Besides the big book. 2 books that changed my life. One is called Operating Instructions. It's a book by a Christian alcoholic author. She's a recovering alcoholic and born again Christian. Her name is Anne Lamott. And she writes a journal about her first year of her son's life. And it's funny and sad and just real spiritual truth bombs. And it opened my mind to like how to be authentic as a person and on the page. Really shaped me a lot as a writer. So I highly recommend that book, especially for moms. And it's a great new mom gift, by the way. It's a great mom gift. And then the other book is a million books changed my life. But this particular book is called Paula by Isabel Allende. She is a South American writer who lives in California. She's written a lot of novels, but this book she wrote in 1993, 1994, while her daughter had a liver disease and went into a coma. And while her daughter was in a coma, she wrote the story of her own life so that her daughter could read it when she woke up. And then her daughter ended up not reading. And it's a magical book. Just a woman really learning to own herself as the world's unfolding around her. Those two books are the books that inspired my book, that gave me permission as a writer to just be really honest on the page.
Wow. It just shows that those two books were written by women about their true lives and being vulnerable with just being humble with and sharing their human experience with others.
That's right. So yeah.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. I have one last question, and it goes back to the beginning, and I'm curious about it. You said that you called your mom to go to the first meeting. Why didn't you go on your own? Why did you call your mom to do that for you? If you had one down the block from you, you didn't even look to see, but it was a given. Go, you search where she has one, but it didn't dawn on you to search where you have one.
My mother was my protector. My mother she passed away in 2009 from cancer. And that woman would have thrown herself in front of a train for me. And I think in a way, it was my way of testing the waters without having to put my skin in the game, because I knew that she would do that for me. I think there was a piece of it also where we both were involved in that like food, body, weight thing. And it was something we always talked about. So I'm sure I involved for a reason. But I think part of it was that I wanted her to do the work for me. And as I said before, it wasn't until I realized I had to do the work myself that it got better. And ultimately, she also got into 12-step.
Oh, did she?
She did.
Eating?
Yeah, she got in also. And she had some solid recovery. She did. She unfortunately didn't get so many years in recovery, but her own spiritual journey was very inspiring as well.
Wow. It's so humbling to hear these stories. Like I don't have a lot of words to describe. I don't understand it. I want to understand it, but my cognitive mind says I want to understand it. But what I hear over and over from people through it, it's a spiritual. You can't understand spirituality. You have to feel it.
Experience.
And that's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, I can tell you that God exists, and you and I can both know that God exists. But the reason that I have the faith that I have is because I have experienced the presence and impact of God in my life. That's the difference between belief and faith. And I know you want to wrap up, so I'll leave you with this. If you come to Pardes Chana and your car breaks down, and you say, Rea, my car broke down, what do? I say, okay, go over to Yossi, the Mosach over there. He's good. He fixed my car once. You're going to believe me. That's your belief, because I told you. You're going to take your car over there. Yossi is going to fix your car. And you're going to say, oh, Yossi knows how to fix a car. He did a really good job with my car. Now you have faith because you've had experience that Yossi can fix your car. That's the difference.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Such a beautiful, easy way of understanding what you wanted. Beautiful. Yeah. Rea, thank you for sharing your raw heart with us and giving permission to other Jewish women to share their journey of awakening.
Yes.
And making a community. It's such a beautiful community. Where can people reach you online?
So they can follow me on Instagram on Awake Jewish Women. You can go to my website also, awakejewishwomen.com, and you can register for my courses there. You can also email me at awakejewishwomen@gmail.com. And yeah, that's the best way to find people.
Thank you for everything you gave us.
My absolute honor and privilege.
Until next time. Thank you for listening to Understand. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please hit that follow button on your favorite podcast app. This way you don't miss an episode and you help us grow. You are part of our growth. We appreciate your support and we hope you choose to listen to us on our next episode. We'd love to hear from our audience. If there's anything you would like us to research, to talk about, please contact us on our website, listeningtounderstand.com. And if there's any insight that you got from this and you want to share with others and you are happy for us to read it out loud on our show, send us your insights, send us your thoughts. We want to listen to understand. Bye till next time.